Thank you. There's, just picking up on the sort of neutral, one of the challenges, of course, that we have in this field as things move forward so fast is actually having a sort of credible and credible not just within the community, as it were, but credible to others, research and information that provides for information for policymakers like myself. So I too will be very interested to see what comes out of that. But indeed, one of the ways in which policymakers are exceptionally influenced is by understanding what's happening around the world in terms of the position of any particular country against any other country, or indeed trying to find out what else is happening in another country that may well be something that we wish to get involved with. We had a Secretary of State not that long ago who was very happy to stand up in places and say that we were totally committed to sharing anything in the world, that anybody wanted to come to the UK, they could have anything we've got on the same basis. He accepted that anytime we were anywhere in the world and we found anything that was better than what we were doing, please be assured that we would pinch it. Now, on that sort of basis, finding out and having a sort of standard and sort of credible organisation that can actually say this is actually something that's really working and be able to give you that sort of information is really important, and probably no better respected organisation than OECD. So I am really pleased to welcome Francesc to come and present on this. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for this nice presentation. Let me start by thanking again Graham, who is responsible for me being here. Well, I've been impressed by Tarek's presentation of the outstanding work done by UNESCO. We at the OECD rarely engage in the field work. We usually limit ourselves to providing food for thought for governments. And in this respect, as regards our project on the new Millennium learners, I have to confess that we are at this moment just starting. So what I can do here in 15 minutes is not more than sharing with you our concerns and sharing with you as well the evidence which raises these concerns. I'm afraid that you will have to wait until next March 2008, to get some responses and then maybe discuss them. So first of all, let me share with you one small question. As you know, probably, OECD and our Center for Educational Research and Innovation is based in Paris, in France. So I thought it could be interesting to share with you this data. I mean, don't panic. This is not the kind of estimates that OECD usually makes about, for example, economic growth. This is nothing to do with the World Rugby Cup. We are not claiming that we know who is going to win. And anyway, I'm a Catalan, so my heart still belongs to Barcelona Football Club, so no panic. No, this is really the starting point for our concern. I mean, we live in a world in the OECD area where 93% of 15-year-olds already have a computer at home. But the same pupils that claim to have access at home confess that only in 58% can access the same kind of technology while in schools. I mean, this is really interesting for us because, as you can see from, as you can see from here, I think I'm missing one. Anyway, if you pay attention, for example, to this comparative table, you will realize that in green, you see the bars representing the gains obtained by pupils who have access to a computer at home if we compare their PISA results in maths with pupils who don't have access to a computer while they stay at home. Okay? In most cases, this is for the green bar, you will realize that the gain is equivalent to roughly 10%. And you don't need to worry about this. We already take into account the differences regarding socioeconomic status. So what you see here is the result of comparing children, pupils aged 15, with exactly the same socioeconomic status. Okay? And the result is really amazing. While now, if you put, if I can draw your attention to the yellow bars, you will see the result exactly applying the same principle, I mean, for pupils exactly of the same age, exactly with the same test regarding maths, and with exactly the same socioeconomic status. What happens if we try to investigate what are the gains for those pupils who are in schools where they can easily access technology? Well, you will see that in some cases, for example, if you look at your your right-hand side, you will see the US, where the benefits of having computers at schools represent roughly 20% in the PISA scale. I mean, this is amazing. But you can also point to other countries, for example, Greece, Germany, Japan, and Korea, where the results of these technologies in schools tend to produce negative gains. I mean, this is really intriguing, and that's the starting point for our project. I mean, we don't know why this is happening. Unfortunately, I cannot share with you the results regarding England or the UK because the country didn't participate in the last PISA run, unfortunately, okay, regarding this particular area. Let me progress a little bit more. I'm sorry, but I think, yes. Yes, let me progress a little bit more and share with you the research questions. And to do this, I'm going to present a video which was developed by the MacArthur Foundation in the United States, which is working with us in this project.
I spend a ton of time with digital media.
MySpace, MSN, Messenger, MySpace.
Different types of instant messaging.
Digital media definitely encompasses a lot of my time.
You have blogging,
Yahoo.
I do a lot of blogging sites.
The main thing with digital media, you could multitask like crazy.
I'm more of a text message while on the phone. You get your message across better when you text.
I have about 3 email addresses.
I have about 5 different emails.
There really is no way to survive in this day and age without some form of digital media.
My parents question me why I don't have my books.
Books are not the standard thing for learning anymore.
The times are really different than what they were when they were growing up.
They have no idea how important digital media is to me. You know, that times are changing, times are changing.
The books are online now, so you really don't need the book.
We know very little.
Adults around them don't even understand what's going on.
And a lot of people have no idea.
How do we actually know?
When and why and how.
There's a potential disconnect.
What don't we know? What are the questions we need to ask?
The outcome is uncertain.
We're in the middle of a very polarized public discourse about kids' use of digital media.
There are many things that people are concerned about.
There's radical changes that are happening in the infrastructure of kids' learning.
I think this particular set of kids are affected by digital media.
Young people are engaging with this new medium to a far greater degree.
There's a lot of work that has yet to be done in this area.
It has to be a conversation.
We really have to pool our knowledge.
And ask probing questions, learn from what's taking place.
How do you use games, virtual worlds, media as a tool?
What's very encouraging for me is the sense that there's learning going on.
I think this is the single most powerful thing that's happening today.
Well, these are the answers we are looking for. And we try to do that by comparing countries on the basis of the empirical evidence we can gather. Most of our evidence comes from the PISA studies, which I think most of you are familiar with. So let me present some data coming from the last PISA round, which corresponds to year 2003. Next December, we are going to present the results regarding PISA 2006. So this is really a striking image, because the points, represent OECD countries, okay? And what we try to see here is, what we try to investigate was whether there was any kind of correlation between being a country where computers are widely used in schools, particularly in secondary schools, and the results obtained in PISA maths, okay? I'm afraid to say that what you can see here is even a negative correlation, which fortunately I would say, is not backed with a statistical proof. But what this picture is showing is that countries which have a wider use of technologies in schools tend to score lower in PISA maths. Okay? This is really striking. Now, if you compare this with exactly the same, but regarding the use of computers at home by pupils, you will realize that here the correlation is extremely positive and it's backed by statistical proof. So what's happening here? Why we can see that those countries where computers are used widely by pupils outside schools tend to score higher? Well, that's the question. We don't know yet. What we try to do then is to improve our understanding of the phenomenon. The new Millenium learners are anything but learners who are completely surrounded by technologies, whose lives, in a way, are extremely influenced by their use of digital technologies. They depend on them, except when they are in the schools. So what we try to do in this project is to get a clearer picture of this image, which tends to be the image we usually have of digital native, as Mark Prensky would probably put it. What we are going to do here in this project is to see whether the continuous use of digital technologies really affects the learner's cognitive skills development. The second thing is whether their social values and lifestyles are affected by this. For example, we are paying, in fact, a lot of attention to the gender issue as well, to the attitudes towards gender issues as well as to violence. Thirdly, we are looking about the effects on their learning expectations. When they go to school, because they are used, for example, to play games, their expectations regarding what good teaching is are changed. Well, unfortunately, our results up to now show that students, at the age of 15 at least, tend to be more conservative than you probably believe. And finally, we are trying to put a lot of attention of the connections between using digital technologies, which technologies and for what, and the results in terms of educational achievement, both in subject-related areas, but also in what you can see as non-traditional areas for education, particularly as they are seen in schools. So This project is also about not only providing responses in terms of understanding why this is happening, but also providing responses in terms of possible courses of action, particularly for policymakers and also for institutions and practitioners. So it's about building bridges between schools and the world and the learning happening outside schools. I mean, I'm going to take this very old picture just to represent something you are very familiar with, I'm afraid, which is the kind of gap existing between what's happening inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And some colleagues tend to think that the right way to build bridges is simply to add, in fact, more barriers between these two worlds. We actually are convinced that you can have two possible courses of actions. One is as easy as this. I mean, you can adapt, for example, home to the traditional way of educating children in schools, or a second, probably more interesting way and appropriate way of dealing with that need of building bridges is just empowering learners. I mean, giving them a device which will accompany them not only in their leisure time, not only at home, but also in their schools. It's as simple as that. So I'm presenting here a picture of something that you cannot buy, actually. Maybe if you are living in the United States, you will be able to do so, I think, by mid-November, but not in Europe. So this is the so-called OX, or the One Laptop Per Child initiative from Negropontes. Let me finalize by sharing with you just a commercial ad. I mean, you are not going to find this vendor, but I think it's very interesting because the ad really raises the issue of that we all have different opinions about ICTs in education, and sometimes even evidence, if you take evidence in an international and comparative perspective, tends to be contradictory. So it's a very short one, but I think it's going to...
Get out my way! I'm headed straight to the finish line. Check the flags, better give me mine. All the trophies of home is sure to be back. But they're too far behind. I'm on the next chapter.
In Japan, 60% of parents think video games are harmless. In America, 50% think video games contribute to rising crime. While in Germany, 30% of parents think video games could help you pass your driving test. Different points of view are welcome here.
Sorry about the ad, but I think that sometimes using that kind of videos is even more interesting than presenting. What we really are in need of is to gather and compare international evidence. And we recognize that sometimes this can provide us with some contradictory perspectives. So we need to add to this gathering of information any kind of interpretation that comes from people like you. So please feel free to send us our comments by SMS or directly to our website where we have a blog, or directly to me. Thank you very much for your attention.